so we've got our two datas here, our two terrain models. Next thing we want to know, at least we've got enough right now to do what we call a complex terrain model. So I'm going to create a new one, and this one's going to be the official terrain model, right? So I'm going to actually change the name to TERR for terrain underscore existing. This is going to be a 3D file. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. One thing that I didn't mention before is it's very important to name those references for those the terrains correctly and not duplicate the names, because when you come over here and attach those two reference files, which is going to be the photo and the survey, I'm going to say open world, okay, and okay. I do a fit view, you're going to notice that when we come to create the complex terrain model, right, this one's called photo and this one's called P-survey. Just imagine that you have existing data. Here's your terrain model, okay? And let's say you have some other terrain model that's a bridge, okay? And you want to go ahead and take this one and merge those together. Well, what happens is you're going to go ahead and get this, and then, let me turn this off, then it's going to come up to the top and then back to the bottom and blah, blah, blah. And this is going to be your terrain. It's going to look horrible, okay, if you have something like this. This would be an append method, append. What we want to do is do a merge if they overlap, right? So then it's going to come over here, and then it's going to come up here, and it's going to stay up on top, and then it's going to come down and come over. That's what we want. So if they don't touch, then you use append. If they do overlap, then you go ahead and do that. So let me go back to terrain, create complex terrain model, select both of these, add them over. I'm going to be using the append option, and then this is where I'm going to give it the actual name, existing contours triangles, give it the official name, existing, and finish. All right, so did it work? Yeah, right, but I can't see anything. Okay, so how do we fix that? Okay. So before I actually did this, I probably should have came in and selected not the terrain. Let me right click the photo and do override symbology, so that way I don't get those confused. Put that as a boundary only. And then also the other one, if I come to, I think it's a model, OpenRoads model, and I come to references, I can actually select it here as well. This has all the civil elements. That's where we can select it that way. So I just changed the photo, the survey. Let me select that one. Oops. Terrain model, and then the feature definition, and then the name. Once I select that, let me change that to yes, and change the overrides to existing boundary. And now we have the overall terrain model. Okay. All right. This is looking good, but you know, let's say the drainage guys say, hey, you know what, I'm doing some research over here and I need some extra data. Okay, so we need to go ahead and kind of bring in some extra stuff to add to our overall terrain model. So here's the terrain. We need to do that reference, tools attach, and then select the DEM clip. That's correct. Open. I'll select it, click OK. And there it is. Okay. That doesn't mean anything, right? All I did was reference it. I still haven't actually merged it together. And also, so I don't get confused, what do? We select this, change the overrides because it's a reference, and change this to boundary only so we don't get confused. So the original one is still there, terrain, and if I come over here to the right, you'll notice that it only incorporates photo and survey. Well, I need to add an additional one, right? So how do I do that? Well, I can select this and then say edit the terrain model, or I can come over here and select it again and right click and edit the terrain model, or I can come up here and say edit terrain model. However you get there, as long as you edit that terrain model. It's going to ask for a left click to accept, right click to reset, left click to accept, there it is. And now I'm going to take this one and add this in. Okay. Whereas before, these two were just primary and append. Speaking of which, I didn't mention before, there can only be one primary. So like, let's say for instance, I take DEM and I move it to the top. See, that becomes primary. So the first one is always going to be your, I think of like a plate of food. The plate itself is going to be the bottom, and that's the overall encompassing data. And the more accurate data will be to the top. So higher processing order. So this P survey will be clipped into the photo. The photo will be clipped into the DEM. And this will be clipped into both of those. So we want to actually change this from append to merge, because now they definitely overlap with that merge clip or DEM clip. So I'm going to say merge. I'm going to hit apply, and what it's going to do is update. We should see a change here, and there it is.